Cessna Niner Echo Sierra, 3 miles from Edva. Turn left heading 020. Intercept the localizer. Maintain 3000 until established. Cleared for the ILS runway 35 approach. The glide slope is unusable.
Cessna Niner Echo Sierra, turn left heading 020. Intercept the localizer. Maintain 3000 until established. Cleared for ILS runway 35 approach. Now, did you notice how he advised me about the glide slope? Clearly, we both know that this is a localizer approach, even though we both said ILS. There's the localizer coming in. Well, there appears to be a little crosswind from the east, so I'll try a 5-degree right wind correction angle for a heading of 360. The 041 radial of Bartlesville is now centered, so I'm at Edva. I'm established on the localizer and inside Edva, so since I'm already cleared for the approach, I can go ahead and descend to 2,500 feet. Now, I only need to lose 500 feet, so a normal descent rate of 500 feet per minute should get me down comfortably before I get to Jeffy. So I'll throttle back to about 1,300 RPM and drop on down. Now I'm getting a little bit to the right of the localizer, so I'll turn back to a heading of 355 and see how that works for a while. That heading of 355 brought me back to the localizer, so I'll turn a degree or two back to the right and try and keep my corrections down to a degree or two from here on in. I'm coming up on 2,500 now, so I'll level off there. I'm level at 2,500 now and coming up on Jeffy. I'm going to try for a ground speed of 90 knots. Now, apparently there's not much headwind today, so I'll stick with an indicated airspeed of 90 knots. And at this speed, I'll keep approach flaps of 10 degrees until my landing is assured.
Cessna Niner Echo Sierra, change to advisory frequency approved. Report canceling IFR this frequency. If unable, cancel IFR on 121.65 on the ground.
Cessna Niner Echo Sierra. As you know, Independence has 121.65 as a clearance delivery frequency that you can use on the ground there. And the controller's telling me that I can use that frequency to cancel IFR. Now I'll switch to the Common Traffic Advisory frequency of 122.7 and click the mic 7 times to get all the airport lights up to maximum intensity. Independence Unicom, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra is about 7 miles south, inbound on the ILS for a straight in for runway 35. Request airport advisory.
Cessna 9er Echo Sierra, winds are light from the east, no reported traffic.
Cessna 9er Echo Sierra, thank you. Now when I get to the outer marker, I'll use my mnemonic, time, turn, throttle, tune, and talk, to remind me of everything I want to do. There's Jiffy, so I'll start my time. No turn is required. I'll throttle back to, about 1,100 RPM and start my 800 feet per minute rate of descent. Everything is already tuned, so all that's left to do is talk. Independence traffic, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra at Jeffy, 5 miles south of the airport for straight-in runway 35. Now in this case, I have 3 priorities. The first is to keep track of my altitude and make sure I descend no lower than 1,220 feet. The second one is to make sure I keep track of the time and start my missed approach if I can't see the runway environment at 3 minutes and 20 seconds past Jeffy. And the third is one I have when I'm flying any approach, and that is to keep making very small corrections sooner instead of big corrections later. Once again, it's important to keep in mind that the primary instrument I'm using for heading control is the heading indicator, not the localizer needle. I just use the localizer needle to help me figure out what heading I should take. And even though I don't have a glide slope to help me out, I still want to control my rate of descent, and I'll do that with the vertical speed indicator. Just as on the ILS, I'll use pitch to control my descent rate and power to control my airspeed. As always, the hardest part of this is keeping your scan moving. And I need to be especially sure to keep the altimeter and the clock in that scan, as well as the localizer needle. There's 1,700 feet going for MDA of 1220. Time to start slowing that rate of descent. I'll include the altimeter in my scan even more often. I'm getting pretty close to the airport now, so I'll concentrate on making very tiny corrections on the localizer. There's 1,500 feet going to 1,220. My descent is slowing. There's 1,400 feet going to 1,220. There's 1,300 feet going to 1,220. And we're going to nail that altitude not 1 inch below the minimum descent altitude. And there's the minimum descent altitude, 1,220 feet exactly. Now that I'm leveled off, I'll make sure I hold that altitude until my time runs out. I'm VFR, but in real life, you'd either be in the clouds or in reduced visibility. So now you need to very carefully include the view out the windshield in your scan to try and see the approach lights or the runway environment. But you can't fixate on the view outside. It's critically important that you keep your scan moving and continue to fly on instruments. And that means you must hold your altitude and continue to fly your approach path. I can't see the runway environment, but I have about 20 seconds to go. So I'll just hold this altitude and continue to include the windshield in my scan. There's my time. I'll make a last quick check to see if I can see any of the runway environment. Nope, not a thing in sight. Let's get out of here. It's power up, pitch up, and flaps up. I want to make sure that I'm really climbing. As you remember, the missed approach procedure is just the same as on the ILS. It has me climb straight ahead until I get to 1,500 feet. Now, I'm already 400 feet above ground level, climbing with everything stabilized, so I'll go ahead and make a traffic advisory. Independence traffic, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra, executing the missed approach. We'll be passing over the runway northbound, then circling left to go back south. Kansas City Center, Cessna 359er Echo Sierra, missed approach. Traffic permitting, we'd like to fly the published missed approach procedure for training purposes.
Cessna 9er Echo Sierra, fly the published missed approach procedure. Report entering holding at EDVA.
Cessna 9er Echo Sierra. Okay, there's 1,500 feet. I'll turn left to a heading of 135. That's the long way around, and continue climbing to 3,000 feet. When I re-intercept the localizer, I'll follow it to the south to EDVA intersection. The 041 radial for EDVA is still set on my number 2 nav. There's the localizer coming in, so I'll do a right turn and follow it southbound to EDVA. And as you remember, since I'm now flying the localizer the opposite direction from the way it's primarily intended to be flown, I'll need to remember to fly away from the needle in order to center it. As you can see, flying the ILS approach without the benefit of the glide slope is a little bit more difficult because you have to keep track of your time and you have to manage your descent. But as you can also see, once you get it down, there's no reason you can't fly an ILS safely even when the glide slope is not available.